Okay, I think we're there. We are live on YouTube and ready to start web sessions number 2. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. My name is Lois Neville. My pronouns are she, her. I'm your co-festival director here at the Hollywood Fringe. And today's web sessions, for anyone joining on YouTube, we've already kind of gone through this in the Zoom room, but it's going to be a more casual event. The idea is to kind of talk through, or show you rather, all of the things that we talked through at yesterday's town hall so that you can visualize all of the website tools that are built to make your Fringe process a success. We'll go through like the printed guide proof, we'll go through your project pages, we'll go through ticketing, we'll go through some resources that we've been talking a lot about, but make sure you see where they're located. And then we'll have lots of time for questions so that you can pick out anything maybe I haven't covered or didn't cover in enough detail. So with that, I am going to share my screen and we'll get this thing going. Okay. Okay, giving it a minute. Double checking. Carly, could you give me a verbal, like, yep, you can see my screen. It's the Hollywood Fringe website up in here.
Yep, all good.
Thank you. Okay. I'm always scared. Casual event. I'm always scared that I'm going to show my desktop, which would be terrifying for anyone to see the pure chaos that is my desktop. So I'm glad it's the screen sharing of the website and not the chaos behind that. Okay, so hopefully everyone on this call has seen this page before. That's a huge start. Yes, we've seen the Hollywood Fringe website. So we're going to spend the whole time here on that Fringe website. So let's get started by going to our profile. So today I've created a kind of a fake, like a test account. That way you're not seeing anything different than what you're actually seeing. I don't have my, right now, I don't have my Fringe admin controls. I am going purely as a primary producer here. So you see exactly what you see on your end. So with that, we're looking at our user account. This is going to be super helpful. A lot of the things that you're going to need are located right in your user account. Particularly, so my projects, right? That's a quick link to the project that you're working on this year and any you might have worked on in past years. Also, your advertisements. So for those of you that have maybe purchased a guide ad or purchased a website ad and paid the money and then went, holy hell, where do I go now? Like, how do I upload it? Where's that spot at? It's right here in advertisements. So when you click there, you can upload your ad if you purchased one, or upload your digital impression if you purchased one. That's also where you can edit. Fun fact, and we're going to kind of jump around as we go through page by page, but fun fact with those website impressions, like you can purchase them at any time. There's no deadline like the printed guide, but you can also edit them at any time. So you can play around with different images. We recommend you stick to something similar in branding just because we're such creatures of habit. Like we'll recognize a color or a logo. And so keeping like some things the same, but you can certainly change those out up until the impressions have ended. You can also pause them and restart them. That is something that is super key to keep an eye on, especially during like May 1st, for example. That is when we see a huge push in website traffic. And so you want to be aware as a producer how quickly those impressions are going so that you don't lose all, 20,000 impressions in 6 hours because it happened to be live during the busiest time of the entire season. So something to play with there. Okay, let's go back to our user account. My buttons, as a primary producer, this is where your button will live once you are comped it. So for anyone who doesn't know, the primary producer of every project gets a free button, and we'll run those in the next couple of weeks prior to May 1st. We'll make sure every primary producer has a button automatically added to their account, and that will live there. Like as long as you're logged in, it will do what it does. You don't need to really be hyper aware of your button. Just know that you have it, and you'll see button discounts on every show page. But that's where that lives. My favorites, if you're favoriting, so there's a little heart on every project. If you're going through now prior to ticket on sale, and are starting to kind of pinpoint some of the shows that you know you really want on your short list, you can go back to my favorites and see what you favorited to start making those purchases. So a great little pre-planning area there. My schedule, that is where, of course, your shows will pop up, but also the shows that you've committed to, the shows that you've purchased tickets for or favorited. They come up in different colors, so you can kind of start to build your June schedule by checking out your My Schedule. And then notifications, that's where any messages that come through are going to live as well. And then, of course, you can log out. That is the alternative option. And then here on the left side is, of course, where you can add your Facebooks, your Instagrams, your TikToks, your Twitters. We clearly haven't updated that in a minute because Twitter is no longer a thing. But you get the gist. You can update all of your social media pages here. And then, of course, update your pictures and your videos. This is a great chance for, especially when we'll talk more about our industry program in the coming sessions. But think of this as almost like a casting site light. We do have casting directors, we do have bookers, we have people in the industry who will come and see a show. And just like when you're watching TV and you're IMDbing the actor that suddenly, piqued your interest, like people will go into project pages and see like who is this artist, and we'll get more information. So putting your reels there, having your team put their reels, their headshots, never a bad idea. And then it also shows up on the internet, which is an additional like thing to show up when you're searching for someone. Now there's a filled out Hollywood Fringe profile, just giving like your cred as an artist that much more hype. Okay, so now we're gonna go into my shows. As you can see, I've tested a few shows here at the Hollywood Fringe over the years. And fingers crossed it doesn't end up on the t-shirt. Fun fact, in 2024, I forgot to unregister my test project. So Lois's test project was on the back of the t-shirt and we didn't know it until well after the print. So that was cute. But we're going to try not to do that this year because then it'll say Roddy's test show fully cooked. And that's a weird one. Okay, so let's click into that and start to check out this project page. So this is the same one Roddy did in Web Sessions #1 as well. So that'll hopefully you will see some things that look familiar. But we're going to look at this project page because now is the time to fill it out, both for the guide proof, but also in preparation for ticket on sale. Because with ticket on sale, it works like anything. Nowadays, we need so much more information than we used to. We're used to those quick, like the previews on the Netflix. We need that like a sizzle to get us invested. So the more you do with your project page, the better chance you have of hooking that audience member once they get to your page. Because getting to the page is only half the battle, right? They need to commit once they're there. So make sure you're taking the time now to fill that out and make sure it is like a sexy wham bam project page. Like you want it to stand out amongst the rest. Okay, so details. You're going to live in your admin tab a lot right now. So we're going to click on that. And then we can see all of the fun details. So I went ahead and like added some tickets to this. I did some of the basics so you can start to see what your reports will look like. So as you start selling tickets on May 1st, you will get live in the moment updates on what's happening, what's being purchased, where where the numbers are, how much money you've made in revenue thus far. All of that will live in your reports. Obviously, this is a free project and we haven't sold very many tickets yet, but you can see it also comes down to like you can kind of see regular industry. If there's press, that will be an additional color, as well as comps and things like that. So you can kind of see the breakdown. Okay, so that's reports. Nothing too exciting yet, but eventually it will be. Okay, performances. We're going to come back to that because that's a whole can of worms. We're going to live in edit for a second. So of course, this is where we edit our project, right? And now is kind of the last chance to really dive in and make sure that is ready to go. You, of course, have your title, you have your category. You can still change it. Up until the guide is off to print, you can still change this category. Reminder, it is what goes, it depends, or nope. It decides where your listing is in the guide and what awards you are potentially nominated for. Your company. This is entirely up to you. Excuse me. But you can make it up if you don't have one. If you have a company, if you have a theatrical company that you've been using, definitely use that. But it can be made up if you know that you're going to be doing more performances, or you can use your name if it's written by you or you are the main creator. Totally up to you. And now short description. This is what is going to print and in the mobile app. So this is where we want to pay attention to. The long description, you can change that at any time. Right now, ignore that baby. That baby is not important yet. Right now, your short description is what's important. And that is 300 characters of the best short description you can come up with to sell your show in that printed guide. 300 characters, of course, includes spaces and punctuation. So no, like it's every space is counted in that 300. And it won't, like you'll be able to tell if you go over, it'll cut off and then you'll see that that won't work. All right, external website. If you have something else, don't put Hollywood Fringe. This is already living on Hollywood Fringe. But if you have an external website, if you have an Instagram page that has a lot of information about your show, that's where you're going to put this. Your minimum age is, of course, who should be coming to your show. That has nothing to do with the age of your cast or the age of your production. It has everything to do with how old someone should be in order to see your show. And I think it's best to look at it as who's going to enjoy it. Not just who's it's going to be appropriate for. Just because like a 5-year-old's mom might not be upset their child saw it doesn't mean it should be for that 5-year-old. So please keep that in mind when you're choosing that age. The country of origin is, of course, where you are currently located. I know that one does get confusing sometimes for our international shows or for shows that have recently located to the United States. But we're not going to like overly audit this, but we ask that it be the country you are currently, in residence of, because primarily we use this to select our international category. And that is for people who are traveling into LA for a short time to do Hollywood Fringe. State of origin, of course, state of origin, we know that one. Okay, here's our tags. We're going to play a lot with tags in preparation for the printed guide. We, of course, have family friendly. And again, if this is intended for family, yay, family friendly. If it's going to be okay for family, but they're not going to have any fun, no, for family friendly. And please use that wisely. We'll also use this on our end to curate some of our, like, we have certain family friendly opportunities and we'll reach out to family friendly shows. And if we book a show that is really for adults at a family friendly event, that's going to really put all of us in a lot of trouble, and it's not going to help you sell tickets, right? So free show, if your show is free, please click that box. We do additional advertising for shows that are free or pay what you can. So definitely make sure that that's located in the guide by clicking that box and that we know about it. One person show, if there is one person on stage, definitely click that box. Pay what you can, same thing. If your show has pay what you can options, definitely click that. And then world premiere is important. And that is if this is the first time this show has ever been put on stage, click that box. That will help you. That will be an additional awards category. And it's also how some people, navigate the festival. So making sure if you are a world premiere, put that in. I get the question a lot of like, I've done a workshop, I've put it on stage for a staged reading once. Does that count? No. And I think it's use your best judgment, right? At the end of the day, we're not auditing what your, like, whether it's world premiere or not, but I think use your best judgment. If you've had a staged reading, but this is the first time it's been fully staged and fully produced, world premiere is fine and no one's going to scoff at that. Accessibility. So we have 2 levels of accessibility. This in particular is based on the project as a whole. And then we'll go into this again when we go into the performance, because a lot more accessibility flags can be performance to performance. And that allows for shows to maybe if you can afford an ASL interpreter for one performance, but not the entire run, that's why we do a lot of those flags on the individual performance. But definitely on this, let us know if your show is multilingual or performed in Spanish. We live in Los Angeles and we want to make sure that if your show is in Spanish or partially in Spanish, that we are doing our part to make sure those audiences are aware that show is for them and they're going to have a really good experience. Content warning. Click this box if you have a content warning. This is not about you're not going to ruin your show. You're not going to give away the lead or make it less exciting for the audience. This is going to allow your audience to come and enjoy the show and not end up traumatized because they weren't ready for the content that they took in that day. So please on this, check the content warning if there are reasons for a content warning, and then specify up here in the long description what those content warnings are. And it can be like really think about your show. Like, do you discuss assault, but it's not really like a heavy theme? Then that would be something where it's like, briefly discussed. Like you can kind of put it into like better description so that people know like, okay, I can handle a brief discussion. I can't handle necessarily a 60-minute show, but allow audiences to make the choice that is right for them. And it's how you keep an audience for a lot longer than just this one show. Like it's great if you sold one ticket, but if you treat your audience correct, you're going to sell 20 over the next several years. So definitely think through your content warnings. And then, of course, includes nudity. If there is nudity in your show, please check that box. That is not something to surprise your audience with. We are a sex positive festival. Nudity is absolutely allowed. It's fine. Make sure you're checking that box so that your audience knows. And note with this one, this is not searchable. Nobody can go on a project and nobody can go to the website and search for nude shows, but it is marked at the top of every project where nudity is a part of that show. That's again, so audiences aren't surprised. And then below here, This you won't really use these very often, but if you decide, we talked a little bit about it at the town hall, you can turn reviews on or off. There's just no, you can't decide which reviews you want to highlight. If you do decide, you know what, I'm not in a space with my piece to accept feedback yet, that is absolutely okay. You can make that choice. And this is where you would click no user reviews or no press reviews. Totally an option. And then, of course, mark as inactive if suddenly you wanted to erase the show as a whole. That's where you can do that. I don't recommend that. That would not help you at all right now. So once you've gone through that, if you've made any edits, make sure you click Update Project. That is one that gets missed quite often, but we want to save it so that you don't have to do it twice. Okay, with that, let's go over to your feed. This is something that gets asked about a lot. If you're trying to kind of see a day-to-day breakdown, the feed is going to collect all of your information. So even if you're right now still booking or looking at venues, if you've been submitting applications, you will see that in your feed as well. This is kind of letting you know what you've done at Fringe. And it'll also, of course, show you who's buying tickets in real time. Okay, let's go to the guide proof. We're going to skip over here really quickly. Hmm. Okay, this is the guide proof. This is what we have been talking about for the last couple of days. This is exactly what will end up in print. So everyone take a second to look that over. This is all of the information that needs to be updated. And here's the good news. You don't have to do anything. Once this is fully prepared and you're like, hot damn, that thing is ready, you're done. You don't have to send me anything. You just let it go and you don't touch anything. That's when you let it ride and it is what it is. Excuse me. And then we pull this data starting April 20th to start to form the full guide. And then at that point, that's when you'll get an email from us with everything in an unedited format with just hundreds of listings. That way you can kind of see it amongst the rest and make sure double checking everything looks correct. This is a great spot to edit if you're like, ooh, something isn't right here. You can follow these links on the right side to make these edits. And then, of course, our email is right there if any questions come up in the meantime, because they will. Reminder, the runtime can only be changed by the venue. So that's something to look at super early, because you can't expect if you email a venue 5 minutes before that 2 p.m. deadline that they're going to have time to change that runtime. So definitely look at your runtime now. And if it is not correct, email your venue right away so they can change it. Okay, let's go over to performances. Okay, this is where you have each and every one of your performances. This is where you're going to add it or change your ticket price. Excuse me, y'all. And you're going to click edit. So let's go through here because there's some things you can edit and some things you can't. You cannot change your venue. That's for obvious reasons. Only the venues have that ability. Same with the performance time. Same with the duration, but again, all of that, if something is wrong, email your venue. They're aware of the deadlines. I work with them on a daily basis now that we're into guide season. So no, they have the same urgency as you. They just have sometimes 100 shows at once. So just be patient with them, but know that they have the same sense of urgency because the deadlines are in their head as well. Okay, online shutoff time. This is where you can change when your ticket sales shut off. It is automatically set at 0 hours before the performance. That way, if you don't touch it, the shutoff will be right when the show starts. That way, people can purchase tickets right up until the bitter end. And you ideally can avoid, if you don't have an in-person box office with your venue, you can do something as simple as print a QR code that links to your project page or that day's performance, up to you. And then you don't have to deal with cash on hand or a Venmo or any additional like way to take box office sales. You can just have a QR code to the project page right at your box office. Highly recommend. But if you did, let's say you wanted to plan more ahead, and I get that too. If you were someone who wanted to print out that will call prior to the show starting, you can shut that or you can change that to like 2 hours before, and that gives you time to cut off sales and print things out. Totally up to you as long as you have a plan for whichever you decide. Okay, price. This is where you can change your price. And of course, you can change this at any time. But if you change it after our guide deadline, it will not be reflected in print. So something to consider. I always recommend if you're really just unsure and kind of want to play it more fast and loose, my recommendation is go higher than you think you want to end up because it's a lot less of a sticker shock if you go to a project page and it's cheaper than what it was in print. It is people feel a little misled when they find out it's more expensive than the guide. So if you are having any back and forth, go higher. So your regular price, that is what is going to show up in the guide. That is going to be just like your general ticket price. Your participant price will only be visible to your fellow artists. So basically, anyone who's on the team of another project, they are your fellow artists. They will see a participant price when they are logged into that user account that is attached to a team. That is automatic, but no one outside of that artist base will see that participant price listed. It is entirely up to you. You do not have to feel guilted into providing a ticket price, but it is a great chance to start to build word of mouth at a slightly cheaper rate. Okay, maximum seats on sale. So you can kind of edit this. You cannot go higher than whatever the space max capacity is, but you can go lower. The only reason you might want to go lower is if, let's say, you think you're going to sell out and you know that you want to engage with industry, and industry notably kind of waits until the end. Industry is such a fickle group, and they might not really start coming to a lot of shows until they've started to hear word of mouth. They kind of wait to hear what shows are being talked about, what shows, are doing well. And so it might behoove you to go, you know what, I have 999 seats. Good God, can you imagine that stress? I'm gonna make it 900. I'm going to save 900 or 99 of those seats for my industry pals or potential press or just potential, like, you want to be able to, like, if your friend that you've made at Fringe wants to see it, you want to make sure you have space for them. So that's why you might lower your capacity. And then, of course, you can always bring it back up as long as it is not above that max capacity. Okay, additional info. Now's where we get into the accessibility flags. Here, shut down sales. You can do that. That is for an emergency situation, right? If somebody ends up sick, you have first response of being able to shut down ticket sales before you even email support@hollywoodfringe.org. And that would be your steps, right? If something happened, because shit happens, right? People get sick or things happen. Let's say you had to cancel a show that's in 3 hours from now because two of your cast members are ill. What you would do first is shut down your sales and then immediately email support@hollywoodfringe.org so we can help you alert those audience members and we can help you switch over shows. Like, we work with you to make that as easy as possible. You can also message your patrons and we'll show you how to do that in a minute, but this is going to be your first step. That way you don't have more audiences joining in on a show that's not going to happen. All right, accessibility. This is per performance. So like I said, you can choose, maybe you have an ASL interpreter for one performance because that's all you could afford, but not the rest. So you click that box for the performance that it pertains to. And then, of course, there's audio description, captioning, flashing lights. It's all of the things basically to prepare an audience for a comfortable experience. There is no requirement. It's a matter of, like, do what you can. It's nice sometimes to have, I've seen, especially at a lot of other festivals around the world, 1 out of 7 shows will be an accessible show, and that's where they'll take down some of their light cues will be less heavy. Maybe they do like a sensory walkthrough beforehand. They do early seating. There's a lot you can do when there's not a budget involved, and we understand, like, there's so much money. A lot of these things cost money, and so now is a great time as a producer to start to think about how you can make your show more accessible to more people. Because A, it's just a good thing to do, and then B, that's more tickets to sell. There's so much of our population is disabled, and to make sure that you are providing the experience of your show to everyone is such an important thing. So use these flags as both inspiration and then to explain to your patrons how your show is accessible. And then, of course, here we go update performance so that everything sticks. And then we'd go back to performances and do it all over again in the next one, right? That is the key. I think the biggest question that comes up with the guide proof is, my tickets, I wanted them to be 24 and I changed it, but it's still saying 24 to 28. And likely it's because one of those performances didn't get updated. So that's a clue if you're having that same issue. That is, I think, probably the #1 issue that comes with the guide proof. Okay, so I did that. Okay, let's talk about the different kinds of tickets, so price levels. If you want to do something a little more outrageous, a little more creative, you might play with price levels. I will say this is not the most common. So know if you're like, wow, that seems complicated, you're not alone and you can ignore this tab entirely. But in case you did want to go with something a little more on the creative side, this is where you would play. So price levels are something that it is visible to everyone. It is an opt-in sort of a situation, unlike discount codes that are, if you know, you know, levels are available to everyone. It's self-identify, self-select. So a good way to do this is you could add in, like if you're doing a VIP experience, if maybe you have a highly interactive show in the front row, whoa, do they just get a different kind of show, right? They have a much different experience. You might set like a VIP ticket for front row in levels. And then of course with that, you can decide how many tickets are on sale. So with a front row situation, right, you'd limit it to how many seats are actually in the front row. You'd set the price here, you'd set the level name, you would describe it, that's important. And then here you can exclude from discount codes, or you can leave that unchecked so that discount codes also apply. You can enable or disable. And that's the thing, if somebody wants to, we see sometimes like early bird discounts, that might be something you play with here, where it's an early bird discount that gets disabled after May 15th or something like that. Or of course you can make it a pay what you can option as well. And then down here, you would decide if it's applicable to all performances or just some of your performances. So you can kind of build your own adventure with price levels. And you can have, I mean, as many price levels as you want. I will say the more price levels you have, the more complicated your ticketing page becomes and the more likely people are to dip. Like there is like the simplicity is so key when it comes to tickets, right? And so recognizing that like it's cool, you can add a few to have fun, but also knowing when it's too much and it's going to overwhelm somebody looking at your ticketing page. Also, make sure you don't, if you play with levels, remember that you still have the regular ticket price. That doesn't go anywhere. So the regular ticket price that's on every performance that's a part of your project. So there's no need to do like a general here, right? So I think to remember that your levels are in addition to your already required ticketing. That way you don't get confused and have like general, because that happens. And so make sure these are just in addition to your already required ticketing. And then from there, of course, you just add price level once you've built something that you're super happy with. And then you'd come back in here and go to edit if you wanted to change something about that price level. And specifically that enable, right? If you wanted it to be something that didn't last forever, that's where you would do that. Okay, let's go to discount codes. This is more of the secret story time, how to play with additional like cheaper tickets for your friends, your family, your fellow artists, whatever it is. And here there is really no limit. I mean, no one's found it yet. Maybe it exists, but definitely not so far. Here, you're going to name your code. You're going to set the ticket price. Unfortunately, we don't do like a percentage, so you just have to do the manual math and figure out what that is. You can certainly advertise it's a 20% off, and then you just have to figure out what that means and then enter that number in there. And then, of course, you can enable and disable. You can kind of do the same thing where it's like, this is only for the first week of May. And then you can take that discount code away once that week has passed. This is just all manual. So you just have, as a producer, have to be really on top of what your plan is and then enact your plan here. And then same thing here, performances to include. That's where you decide what performances are for what discount code. And then for here, I think it's also, we talked about this in the town hall, but this is such a great data collection. Part of being a producer is starting to learn what works, and it will change every damn year. It's part of the fun thing about doing theater and producing is it never stays the same. Once you finally figure out like, this is gold, this is the perfect hack, it goes away the next year. But start to build, at least you're going to figure out what is working in your marketing scheme. And that way you can double down. So use your discount codes, even if you're like, you know what, fuck, like, I don't really want to give a lot of discount codes out. Give dollar off discount codes just to know what marketing is working. Like start to hack the system so that you know if you're paying for an Instagram ad and you're using a special discount code there, if you're not seeing any return on that investment, walk it back, make sure you're getting out of that game. So like really, really play with this to decide what is working for you so that you can make quick pivots within this festival, but also know for future years and future producing opportunities what really works. Okay, so that is discount codes. And you can see here, you can see how many are sold, right? So you'll be able to kind of look here and see. I recommend just the part of producing is this I can talk today. This website should be how you wake up every day of June, hell, every day of May, really. But like get in the habit of like, with your morning coffee, you're spending 10 minutes checking where you're at. And that way you can also have a panic of like, you know what? I'm not selling a ton of tickets. I wonder how I can pivot while it still matters as opposed to June 20th when you've just really run out of time and honestly capacity at that point. You're probably like, just get this the fuck over with. I'm so tired. I'm ready to move on, right? So start to like get in the habit of every day spending a little bit of time. That way you don't end up underwater trying to fix something that has been broken for a long time. Okay, so that is guide proofs patrons. Let's just look. Well, they're gonna look at all the things. That was basically the outline I wrote is just look at all the things. Patrons list. This is where your patron list will live. We ask every person who buys a ticket to your show for their permission to share the email with you, the artist, and 98% say yes. So this is going to start to build your patrons list. This will be something you can download and keep forever. This page will also not disappear unless you inactivate your page. It will always be here for you to refer back to. But this is a great way to, at the end of the festival, pull that list and now you have hundreds of audience members that A, like your work because they wanted to know more about it later, and B, next time you do a show, you have started that email campaign. You've started to build that built-in audience. So definitely take advantage of this, and it'll be the email everyone sends me in August. They go, hey, wait, I remember there's a list that I can keep. This is where that lives. But during June, let's dive into the performances. So this is where you're going to live in June. Accessibility requests. Keep an eye on that. Like as people are requesting assistance in the venue, you're going to find out as they purchase a ticket. That way, every day, especially on the morning of every performance you have, you should be looking at this with enough time to make a plan and also enough time to recognize sometimes like shit. I am in a non-wheelchair accessible venue and I have a wheelchair patron who is a ticket to my show. And that is your responsibility as the producer to make sure you are in contact with that patron and saying, hey, I'm so sorry. I wanted to let you know before you made the trip out that there are stairs and you can explain the situation and find out if that's something they can or cannot do and then activate getting that refund. You can reach out to us so that we can immediately refund or, help handle that situation for you. But it's being in communication. So keep an eye on those accessibility requests. And then we're going to go to view. And this is where you can see each and every performance as a whole. You can go into edit, right? We spent some time in edit. You can look at the comped tickets and we'll talk about adding comps in just a second as well. Actually, let's do it now. We're just gonna do it now. So comp tickets, this is where you add comps. So with this, you have two options. So we talked a little bit yesterday about like participant swaps. Like that's a pretty common thing. Again, you do not have to. It is entirely up to you and your journey, how you want to interact with your community. But let's say you did want to do a lot of comp swapping because you want to see a lot of shows and that's money not spent because you're going to share your seats with them, right? Oftentimes a comp code will be easier on that. You can set a comp code for an artist and that way they get a free ticket using that code. That's going to be easier. But this is great if you have family that you're like, you don't want them to have to go through the process of using a comp code. You can add them directly. So like right now, I'm going to add myself. And then you add their email. You can do this without adding an email. Like if it's more for personal reference, they're coming. But an email is going to be helpful because then they're automatically on your list. They're going to get a ticket invite. Like they're going to be kept in the loop and you don't have to handle so much of the coddling to get them into that performance. And then here you decide how many tickets you want to give them. We're going to give Lowe's 2 tickets. And then you can send a little note along with the automatic email that comes from the Hollywood Fringe via this form. If it's for press or industry, you can mark that here, and that's more for personal notes. It's right. So you as a producer, when you go back to the will call list for that performance, you can remind yourself like, oh shit, I have Soho Playhouse coming that day. You can kind of start to get an eye of what to expect that day ahead of time. But you also don't have to click either of those. If this is just like for mom, you want to make sure mom had a seat. You're going to add comps here. And then you can start to track how many comps you have going on. You can also delete your comps. Make sure your audience knows before you delete their comp because that will not be an email. It won't be an email that goes, hey, you got a comp deleted, but you can control, you cannot delete, you cannot refund tickets, but you can delete comps that you're adding. So sometimes people will also, instead of changing the house, add a certain amount of comps so that they're saving seats for maybe their cast members who want to invite friends or family, excuse me, or something like that. Okay, so those are comps. Now, let's go back to performances. There's so many things in performances. Go to view. And now we're going to look at message patrons. So here you can message your patrons. Right now, I've only Lois has bought a ticket, so it's a small patron list, but you're going to have more than that because you're awesome producers and you're going to have a full house. But this is a great way to let people know ahead of time, like, hey, maybe your venue doesn't do late seating, which that is something to check in with early on. What is the late seating policy? And if you create your own, make sure you know what that is so that you can relay it to your patrons before the show. Highly recommend sending an email an hour before the performance saying, hey, I'm so excited to welcome you to my show. A couple of reminders, there's no late seating. Please make sure to arrive early. Or here's some parking recommendations. Or, hey, and this is something that happens every year, West Hollywood Pride or Hollywood Pride is happening today and traffic's going to be a little crazy. Please come early. Here's a restaurant nearby if you wanted to come way early and grab a bite. You know, it's interacting with your audience, so they have a really lovely experience. This is also where you can send a reminder to leave a review. The Hollywood Fringe says an automatic email right when your show starts to anyone who has purchased a ticket to that performance. But it's also nice to, wait 24 hours and then send a personal ask. You are going to be so much more effective than an automated Fringe email. So know that you have constant contact with your patrons. Just use it wisely, right? No one likes to get spammed. So make sure you're being really thoughtful in what you're sharing and when you're sharing. Immersive shows, this is really, really helpful. If you have any sort of immersive elements, this is a great way to make sure your audience knows what to expect and can prepare for your show. Okay, and then we have your will call. This is going to be your June buddy. Every performance will have your will call. You pull that up and you'll be able to see everyone that's coming to your show. So at Fringe, we don't do any sort of digital tickets or digital scan. You just have your will call list, and this is updated in the moment. So highly recommend like an iPad, a laptop, something on site that you can kind of in real time look at your will call, unless you want to do that like 2 hours to cut off where you print it. Totally up to you and what's going to work best for your box office team. So here you have some options. You can show prices. You can get rid of that if you just know you want the name because it doesn't really matter once they get there. But if you do VIP or any levels, you're going to want that because then you know what ticket to give them and where to seat them. You have the option to show press or industry. That's a great thing if you know that you want to make, I've seen like when I've gone to other festivals and I'm there for industry, like scouting for like the Exchange Awards, for example, right? We bring shows from a couple of Australian festivals. And when I'm there, occasionally when I show up as industry, there'll be a water bottle next to my seat or a little packet about the show or like, just things you think about. Like if you're trying to book maybe it's Soho Playhouse, you're trying to book a spot, you want to go to that theater, you want to get selected for a co-pro, think about these little things that can make them feel really special, because it's they're taking time out of their schedule, they're not paid to come see Fringe shows, so anything you can do to make them feel special can certainly help build that relationship for you. And then you can get rid of the logo if you want to. I know that's a weird option. I don't know why we have that, but there it is. The things that I learn about our site every day. So yeah, this is your will call. And then if you have accessibility requests, it will show up under the name as well. I should have done an example of that, but then it will show up every time I buy a ticket, and I didn't want that confusion to live on if I forget to edit it. But if let's say I did have an accessibility request, when I buy a ticket, there'll be the option to write that accessibility request down, and it'll show up right below the name of the patron. So you'll have that there. Okay, that is the will call. That is about all from the ticketing. I'm going to take a break now that we've kind of rocked through ticketing and do a little Q&A before we move into the more about the guide proof and the ads. How does that sound, y'all? Okay, any questions? And feel free, like I said, this is a casual, remember we are recording and on YouTube, but mostly casual. But feel free to unmute yourself and just jump in with a question if you have it. I see a hand up. Dara?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
Sarah. Hi.
Hi.
So, during the meeting yesterday, you all had spoken about that like club or that special club that you recommended giving discounts to, and I was curious what we need to do to do that, and also like what level would be meaningful if it's like $5 or just te like what I don't know if there's like an average that people tend to do. And then there was a question in the chat that I also had, and maybe um, that we can't figure out where you get to comp tickets, and I don't know if it's because the event hasn't started. I don't know. The tickets haven't gone on sale yet, I guess, is probably my guess.
Yeah, no, that's a real, thank you for that. That's a really good point. That is exactly why. So because your tickets are not on sale yet, yeah, haha, didn't mean to gaslight y'all there. Yeah, you don't have, you can't see that. But good, that's good paying attention. Like I like that you're following along, so I'm sorry about that. But no, come May 1st, once tickets are on sale, then you will be able to release comps because it's, we just play the dangerous game of if we release comps before tickets are on sale, who knows how that'll go. So yeah, comps will become available to you once tickets are live and people are purchasing. And then for the discount code, so for members, it's a $5 off is kind of the baseline of what we ask for to be available for our members and our volunteers. So I guess to catch everyone up, we do a program every year. We do a commissioners club, which is like our fringe club. These are the members that are donating both to Hollywood Fringe because we're a nonprofit organization, but also to our artist fund. So 25% of all of the funds raised through our commissioners club go directly into artists' pockets and get divvied up in our artist fund for low income Angelino artists. And so for those members and then volunteers who donate their time, because both time and money are very necessary to run a nonprofit arts festival, we have discount codes for show or for those members and from shows who opt in. We don't force any show to give this opportunity, but it's a great way. It's kind of a win-win. We love a win-win model at Fringe, but it's a great way to say thank you to our like fringers that are volunteering and our fringers that are giving back and making sure the artist fund is supported. But it's also a great way to fill your house, especially your earlier performances, with people who are seeing a bunch of shows and who are talking about shows. Like they are the members of our community that are seeing 20, 30 shows and walking about like they are just fringing 24/7. So they're talking about the shows they've seen. They're letting everyone know what they've seen and what they've loved. They're also voting because, and we'll talk more about this later. I don't want to get stuck in awards because that can happen so quickly. But in order to vote, if you're not a member of a team, you have to have seen at least 3 shows as an audience member to get a ballot. And so, like, if 2 of your goals are just to like sell your house and have a full house at every performance and to potentially get nominated for awards, this is the group you want to get access to your show. So, Carly, and I don't have the link in front of me, but is there any way you could find that link for me? I know it's in a participant email that we sent out recently. I just don't know where it lives on the website. So if you don't mind,
Yes.
Carly, thank you. I'm going to give you a little bit of a treasure hunt. But worst case, it is in the most recent participant email, and we'll be including it in several participant emails coming up to make sure that link is really handy. So great questions
So,
all around.
oh,
Okay. Yeah.
okay. Oh, wait, sorry. I think I missed something.
No.
So I don't need to do anything in the website right now to note that.
Yeah. It's a form that you fill out and all of the information will be there. But yeah,
Okay, great. Okay. And then, sorry, the other question was in terms of price levels, like if say you decide you want to do early bird after the deadline, is that fine? Like, can you add price levels at any point? You don't need that for like the book.
no, yeah. And I think really it's general. Like general is what you're going to want to focus on for the printed guide. All of the frills, all of the extra can be something you decide in the moment because really that's producing, right? Sometimes you wake up and you're like, well, shit, I only have 20% of my household. I'm going to change my marketing and you're going to add discount codes. You're going to add early bird. So just focus on your general to make sure you have something in the guide that makes sense.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Great question. Okay, Kendall, I think I see you next.
Yeah, thanks. Could you show, like on the website while we're looking at it, exactly which link is going to become our ticket link? I just want to make sure as I like make materials and stuff, I don't send people to the wrong place.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I'm going to make a note to myself. And then as soon as we get
Okay,
questions, once we go back to the site, I will absolutely do that. That's a great question.
perfect. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Thank you, Kendall. Lindsay, what you got for
Um,
me?
Yeah, I had a question. Our first show, the preview show, is going to be Pay What You Can. And going through the website was really helpful. Do I just, on that first performance, just click that one box that says Pay What You Can, leave it at 0, and then update it, and that's it?
Yeah, absolutely. And what you
Okay.
can do, so you click that box and you'll want to do it if you want that pay what you can to be both for general and for participants, you're going to click both of those. And then what you can do for pay what you can, this leads me to something I didn't cover, so that's perfect. You can do a suggested price. So I feel like that's always nice for people because, people more often than not, if they can afford to, they want to support, they want to do the right thing. And so I highly recommend for when you click that pay what you can, give them a suggested price. And of course, they can decide 0 if that's what's in their current financial situation. It'll let them go through at 0. But if you suggest 20, those that can afford 20 are going to want to give you 20.
Okay. All right. And then the other question that I had was QR code. I know the tickets aren't on sale yet, but we want to get our invitations done. And so which QR code would I have to wait until May 1st to get a QR code?
No, that's a great, and that kind of goes back to Kendall's question. So in a second, I'll show you what that link is because the link doesn't change. So you
Okay.
can, because you absolutely, you don't want to wait till May 1st, right? Because then you have a whole lot to do on May 1st. So I'll show you in just a second, Lindsay, when I show
Okay.
what that project link is. But then with
Okay.
code, so we don't provide a QR code that goes
Mhm.
along with that link. But Canva, I mean, y'all, I seriously, Canva sponsor us. Like the amount of like money I'm sure I'm sending your way by way of users. But it's a genius tool and use like Canva will create a free QR code for you and it not be limited to a certain amount of clicks. I think that is key. Some sites that will create like a QR code for your link will limit it to like it's free up until a certain date or it's free up until, 100 clicks. So make sure before you print that QR code is going to be yours for the duration of that postcard being in existence because that happens every year and it's such a bummer when you have a QR code that's going to nothing because you didn't want to pay the extra money. So Canva, it's free and it will not go away.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then we'll show the link in just a second. Okay,
Okay.
Rebecca, you are up. I feel like I'm in a game show. I had a lot of coffee today. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, you're doing great, dear. It used to be the little codes, the little tags underneath your project on your main page.
Yeah.
You could hover over them and there was an X and you could get rid of them and then add new ones. Is that not something you can do any longer?
Oh, I'll look at that too. Link to, I'm going to be honest, y'all, because it is a pretty, like, there is so much to a site and things break all the time. So we'll look at that and make sure nothing's broken. And add that to my links to site and then tags for this next screen share.
And
Um,
it's the tags on the main page, right underneath the main picture. Okay.
Yeah. Because I will say, secret story. I mean, it's not secret, we're on live stream. But we are updating our tags this year. So it also might be something because it's currently in development. So it might be wonky right now because y'all, we're working to make tags a little more accessible and a little more audience friendly so that they can like we can pinpoint some like and we'll share this in the participant emails coming up. But we want tags to be a little more intuitive for audiences so that they can get a little more creative with how they're finding shows. So my guess is it's in the middle of a deploy, and then we're figuring out what that coding looks like.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
And also, I need direction on how to, if I was a primary, how to add an administrator because my lady can't do it and I don't know how to advise her. And then I wanted to find out, can this go back and forth?
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna add that to my screen share list right now. So we'll
Great.
do teams, we'll do link to site, and we'll do tags. Perfect. Anything else, Rebecca, before we move into the next one?
No, I'm good, dear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Shaz or Shah? Sorry, hope I get that right.
Hi, Leslie.
Hey.
You guys are awesome. I have to say it, really, honestly. Um, so if I could go back to the tickets for a second,
Yeah.
and then something about accessibility. Um, do you have an average for per person for
Oh, average
pay
ticket
what
price.
you can from last year?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So actually, oh, that's a great question. So for ticketing, if you go to hollywoodfringe.org/annual report, and Carly, if you could drop that in the chat. Of course, none of these are in the chat drops I dropped earlier. But hollywoodfringe.org/annual report has, I mean, an absurd like 17, 18 pages of data from last year, because like we're going to keep talking about data, but like it helps us produce better the next year, right? So collecting what in the hell happened during one festival so that we can go into next year kind of locked in on like what worked, what didn't work, what those stats were. And you can check out a lot of details about last year's ticketing data on the annual report. And then as far as like ticketing average, if I'm remembering correctly, the average listed price, which means like what was on sale, was $15, and the average paid for price was almost $11. Like that's based on after discount codes and all of the comps you give out, it averages out to about like 10 and some change. That said, I will say we did some audience surveying after last year, because most of our recommendations are based on the prior year's decisions. And this year, we went to audience directly and did some surveying to be like, hey, okay, this is the average that we're seeing, and that really hasn't changed a ton in the last few years. Like, would you be willing to pay more? Like, where is kind of your threshold? Because, like, yeah, these are getting set at this average, but like, what would you pay for? And we're seeing that audiences are not scared by like an $18 ticket. So I think like it's not a crazy idea to list like maybe at 18 with the idea of selling at 15, knowing that you're going to give away discount codes and you're going to give away comps to, to parents and to industry. So don't be afraid to go a little higher. Did that answer your question, or did I go completely off base?
Yes. Well, no, 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 no. And I saw that, and that was very helpful. So I, is it safe,
Yeah.
without reading the whole report and finding that number, is it safe to say the average, because you did everything and you came up to 11 something?
Mhm.
Uh, 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 is it safe to say pay what you can is around $10 for last year?
To pay what you can? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think okay, all right. So,
Yeah.
so for accessibility, is it people requesting or they're asking?
Oh, for the accessibility. So it kind of
Yeah,
goes
like
so
if
both ways. Yeah.
somebody wants to ask, like it doesn't say, I say, we have sign language. They say they want to ask. So
Yeah, no, I hear you. So it's a little bit of both. It won't be, I will say, for accessibility when it comes to like the venues that are wheelchair accessible or ASL interpreted performances, audience members are going to be searching for the ones that mark that they are those. They're not necessarily going to the performance and saying, I require these accessibility things. It's more of
okay,
like it's letting you know, like they're like a lot of people are going to look at the venue is going to have it listed. You're going to have it listed on your project. And so those steps are in place so that an audience member knows what's possible. And then, but additionally, that is a place where sometimes I that you need a little extra. Maybe it's like an early seating, like, hey, I use a walker and I would really love to be let in first if that's possible. So that's where these accessibility needs are going to be asked for. Or that
okay,
is where it'll be like I'm in a wheelchair. And that's a good double check for you because sometimes maybe you can't provide it, and that's okay as long as you're honest, right? Like that
okay.
happened once or twice. We're like, oh, I'm so sorry, my wheelchair or my venue has stairs and it's X number of stairs. If that's not doable, please let me know and I'll make sure to get you a refund and my apologies for the inconvenience, you know?
Yeah, okay. Now, if somebody says, I just ask, I read the stuff about your show. I like to see it. I like the poster. But do you have sign language service? Well, I don't.
Yeah.
Is it appropriate that I say, but I still like you to come? I can refund the money for, like you're my guest. Like, is that appropriate to say that?
I mean, it's appropriate to offer as long as you're aware that like that is not necessarily an accessible performance for that particular person.
Yes. Yeah. No, making it very clear.
Yeah. I also
Yeah.
think it's
Okay.
something that would be like, if they're like, I really love your work and I'd love to see it. I also think a really great response could be, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. I would love to share my work. Unfortunately, it's not in my budget to have ASL interpretation for this run, but I would love to keep your email. And in the future, if I'm able to, put that into my show, I would love to reach back out. That's
Okay.
also a way to kind of make sure like you're celebrating their desire to see your show, but
Yes.
also the
Yeah. Absolutely.
location so that you're not
Yeah.
comping a ticket that they're not going to enjoy.
Okay. Thank you, Elise.
Yeah, of course. Okay, I think that is all the questions for right now, it seems like. So I'm gonna go back into the website here and we'll go through. I have teams, I have links to sites, and I have tags, and we'll go through all of that right now, y'all. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna give it a minute. I think we're back on screen. Back on screen. Thank you for the thumbs up, y'all. I feel like we're doing this as a team and I love it. Okay, so let's go to teams. We're gonna go over to details. Okay, so this is where our team, which is basically me, Roddy, and Roddy's father, which is very sweet. So this is our current team and our test project. So with that, you're gonna edit your team here. And let's say like right now, I am the primary. So if we wanted to change the primary, and I'm not going to do this right now because then I'll lose the access I'm working with currently, but we're going to go to edit on Roddy's tab, and then we can change the primary to Roddy. And it will let you know like there can only be one, because they really can. As soon as you change that primary, they are now my primary producer. And if something happens, they are my contact. So just, be very cautious, but then you can change it back at any time. That can go back and forth as you see fit. This is also where I'd like to go over. This is where you're going to add your team. If you wanted to give admin privileges, that's a big thing. If you have other producers on your team, or you have like artists that are just really involved and you want them to have access to give comp codes, to look at sales, to pull will call, to change anything, that is something worth noting. To give admin privileges is giving a lot of control, but you can add as many admins as you want to your project. And you would do so by just clicking project admin and then update member. And then let's go back. And this is, of course, where you would add team members, right? So if you go to edit, you can invite any team members here. I will say it helps if you have team members that have done Fringe before, double check what email they want used. Oftentimes we end up with a lot of project pages for one artist because they've had different emails over the years, as we all do. But it doesn't hurt to double check which email is already associated with an account and before you add them. And so then remember, anyone on your admin team here, or anyone on your team, admin or otherwise, now has access to that $3 participant button. They now have access to the participant price when they are going to see shows. So you definitely want to add your team so that your team has the same Fringe experience that you do. Okay, let's go back to the details tab because I think there's a couple of other things before we get into, and don't worry, I haven't forgotten, like, I got it right here. Register. Okay, so here at the bottom, this is where I want to go through. If you have not accepted your deal, let's say you've booked a venue and they've put in your performances, the next step is they're going to send a deal that you need to approve. It's not real. I don't know it exists. It exists until a deal has been approved by the show. So if that's you, if you have not gotten everything officially done by your venue, you're going to see an extra little box right here next to register for the Hollywood Fringe that says view your deal. Please view that deal prior to the April 20th deadline. Otherwise, you'll have done everything. You're so close, and then nothing will show up in the guide because it's not real until it's been approved. So that's an area to keep an eye on. This is also where, of course, you can add your pictures and your videos, where you can modify your tags if you click here. And this is what we're going to be playing with. And Rebecca, I know you're talking about the front page. We'll do that too. But this is where you can add all of your tags. And then, of course, view registration. If you know that you can go back in if you want to edit anything for especially, actually, this is interesting. To view details. If you decide that if you didn't list world premiere and suddenly realize like, you know what, shoot, I'm world premiere, double check that you've done this here. Where is it? Aha. Because this is actually it's not the project that we use for the awards, it's right here. So make sure that this is updated with, yes, it is a world premiere. If you're a world premiere show, make sure it's here and on that details tab. So know that at any time you can go in and change your registration. Okay. We did pictures and videos. And of course, this is a question that comes up because I'm signed in. That's why I can see all of these add pictures, add videos, registration. No one else can see that unless they're logged in as you as the primary producer. So it's just a fun way of making it super easy to do everything in one place without having different pages for everything. Okay, okay, let's go to, we did Teams. This is the link. Okay. So if you get rid of Details tab, this is going to be your link, y'all. And you have two options technically. So this is your project page. It is the number at the end is only yours. It will only ever be yours. The site hoards information. As you can tell by that really high number, that is the amount of projects that have been listed on this website throughout the years. And so it is yours forever until you want to get rid of it. But that will be a link that will remain yours. And this, so then if the audience goes to that link, they will see the information first, which I think that's like how you want your audience to interact with your page first. That's where they're going to see, oh, content warnings or a little bit about the show. Additionally, you can choose to have it go to your ticket link. That is an option. But again, I personally think the show page is going to give them more information and it's still very clear where to get tickets. But additionally, you can choose that ticket link and it would be right up here. And then this is like, it's unnecessary because well, actually, no, it's not unnecessary. Remember, if you're in admin, that will be a different link. So I think that is actually something to point out. Make sure you are using it or grabbing that link from your project, like your public facing project page. A great way to kind of double check yourself if you're worried about getting that wrong, because I would be. I'm someone who's like, oh God, which link is it? Go incognito mode on your browser and double check that that link is like visible to whoever would be seeing it. That way you can just double check that you have the right link, because the admin link will not be visible for those that are not signed in as admin. Okay, let's go to the front page. And then we'll go into guide ads. I have not followed my outline at all, have I, Carly? I'm so sorry. This is what I do. Okay, so Rebecca, was this the page you were talking about for the flags? These guys right here or the tags?
It's underneath, like go to a show. Go back to Roddy's show.
Okay. Roddy show.
Roddy's show. And underneath, well, you're on tickets, so go to details.
Yeah. That
So,
I'm moving all over the place. Sorry, details. Okay.
yeah, and then scroll down just a little bit underneath the cartoon. Those are the tags right there. But I'll tell you, I'm not the only one. I was on her computer trying to change her tags.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be you could hover over the words like funny, you could hover over it and a little X would appear and then you would click the X. So maybe add a couple of tags, add funny and comic.
I see what you're doing. So yeah, it's you go into if you want to delete any or update. So if you go to, I got you. So here's your tags. If you go to modify tags right below.
I'm gonna video you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So you're in your tags here, go to modify tags. And then you can delete them here. There's a little trash can. So I'm gonna like absurdist, not absurdist anymore. You can delete them there.
Wow, I'm telling you, I did a thorough search. Okay, I feel blonde right now, but okay.
The amount of things that I learn on the website daily, and I've been using it for 15 years, y'all. This is everything is complicated on the internet, right?
One more time. Go backwards one more time.
Yep. So we got modify tags.
I see, okay.
And then delete here.
I'm just wondering, I'm playing devil's advocate. She's got 8 of them. I'm just wondering if you have 8 tags all clicked, can you still modify?
Let's see.
Because Amanda was trying to do this too.
Okay, so I just added a bunch of tags.
And you can only add 8. So if you have 8 and you save them or whatever, and then you go back.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I did it, Rebecca.
Wait, so you were able to modify it?
Yeah, no problem. Just like.
Oh, okay.
Just like you're seeing here.
Okay. Okay.
This is the way. This is the way.
I love it. And to be honest, I haven't looked at that in a minute, so it was a good reminder for me. Half of what I'm doing here, y'all, is just kind of looking and like going through the process and hoping I get it right. Okay, teams, links to sites, tags. I think I answered all of the questions. So I want to go now to, so we showed you where to look at ads if you've purchased them. So we're going to go to the market. So the ads, remember your listing, which, oh, I have a guide here. Your listing included in your registration is going to look something like this. It's just going to be no image, but your performance, your short details, all of that. If you want a guide ad, those are available for purchase at 50% off. And we'll do a little something like this. Okay, the first one I pull up is Feminist Ass Man, but here's where we are. That's what's happening. And so you can buy your guide ads once you've registered. If you want to buy one, they're not required. But if you have a really sick image, like if your show is very visual, that's going to be a worthwhile advertisement. If you're not really doing any visual marketing, then probably not the guide ad. If you want that, you go to hollywoodfringe.org/market. And here's where you have the options. And so because I am a participant on a show right now, I'm seeing the discounted rate. So the discounts are automatic as long as you've registered your project. So we have the 8th page horizontal starting at 125, and then all the way up to a full page at 1,000, half page at 500, quarter page at 250. And then we get into the Fringe website impressions. Those can be filled or purchased at any time. I will note though, right now, there's just not a lot of ads going. So the ones that are up are getting a lot of play. I don't like it's hit or miss whether that's good or bad because tickets are not on sale yet, but something to think about, like getting them early for a little bit of like teasing because you need to see something so many times right now. Like we're also overstimulated. We have to see things like 8 or 9 times for it to click. And it used to be 3, which is saying so much about what social media has done to us. But we have to see something over and over and over again. So something to consider with your marketing plan is like the longevity of that. But with these ads, so you'll click here. I'm going to get a 8th page ad. Maybe click, there it goes. And this is where you're going to purchase your ad. And then remember, that's where you're going to go back to. Let's see. So I put in my credit card number, and then I'm going to go back to my account and then to advertisements. And that's where I can upload my art. It'll let you choose a file and it'll remind you of file formatting here, but way cooler, go to hollywoodfringe.org/ads. And we have everything to make it super easy. We have the actual dimensions, the dimensions with bleed, and y'all, bleed is so important to make sure, because and our guide designer works really hard to like, if there's an ad that we are worried about getting cut off, or we're worried like maybe the ink or like the text color is too similar to the background color, like we can't, re-graphic design hundreds of ads, but we can at least be like, oh, I'm really worried about this being readable, or it's gonna get cut off, or it's not quite the right size. We will send notes and just need a quick turnaround to get those edits so that you can have the best looking guide ad possible. But here you can double check all of the specs. And then even cooler, this is my favorite part. Again, Canva, sponsor us. My God, the amount of Canva that I use. But you can click in and there's a full template so that you don't have to just kind of fly unaware. If visual design is not really your thing, you can use this template. Just go to File. Nope, it's going to make me think about it. Come on. But you can make a copy once it loads. You can make a copy of this and then build your ad directly in this template so you don't have to worry about getting the sizing wrong. And then also, if you go to, this is a fun hack. If you're like, where do you start? Like, I don't know what guide ads look like. You can go to hollywoodfringe.org/guide and see last year's. I love looking back at examples. I feel like that is so helpful. So you can see, an example of a full page ad. And if you scroll down, you can kind of see what last year's guide looked like to give you some ideas, both in the information people are putting, but also just what is catching your eye, right? A lot of this, like, you are all artists, you're all creatives. but you're also all consumers. You're going to know, like, by looking at ads, which ones stood out to you and which ones got your attention. And so, like, there's nothing wrong with kind of taking notes from that and going, okay, like, I'm looking at, like, honestly, like Dragonfish, like Soleil, it's not so busy that I'm kind of overwhelmed and overstimulated and moving on, but the information is in, of course it'll be bigger because it's on print, but like there's any awards that were won, like hell yes, like name anything that you, any accolades, whether it's this show or another show. The performance times are in there, the location is in there, there's a QR code, so all you have to do is look at that ad and go, oh, I'm interested in that show, and immediately scan your phone. And then there's a couple of quotes, but it's not so busy that like immediately I'm overwhelmed and I can't do anything, right? So definitely use kind of what ads are calling to you and take notes from there. I will say with the QR code, the ones here are about as small as you can make them any smaller, and the likelihood of it getting messed up in print is pretty high. And even though print is such a fickle little bitch, but like one print of the guide might be fine, whereas the next 100 might not be fine. So making sure, like especially with QR codes, that it is large enough to be printed well is really key. Okay, so that is kind of the guide ads schedule as we near. I'm going to come off of screen share, stop share, and then we're going to do the guide ad listing one more time before jumping into questions. But the schedule to kind of prepare yourselves, because it's going to be a decently busy next few weeks as we start to send out guide proofs. But as long as you're on the schedule, you're going to be fine. Excuse me. Okay, so April 15th on Wednesday, holy hell, is the registration deadline. But the real, like, honest to God deadline, as far as anyone who's already registered and is going and ready for print, is going to be April 20th at 2 p.m. At that time, that is when I hop on our website and pull a huge giant ass file of all of the listings that we just looked at, the guide proofs. I'm pulling all of that information and dropping it into a raw, unedited, like Word document. From there, I take a few hours to just kind of format it so it's a little bit more digestible. And then I send it, or Jeanette sends it to all of the primary producers. With the guide proofs, we do keep it to primary producers so that I'm not getting different information from different members of the team. The primary producer will be the one to check that email and make sure that the team as a whole is good with things as they come out. So expect that April 20th email to go out sometime in the early evening, late afternoon. And at which time I will have a Google form included in that email. And that is your chance to, like, if you're looking at it, like, you know what, shoot, like my runtime has changed, or there's something about the listing that's just not quite right. You do have a chance to submit an edit, but that form is where you put in exactly, and there's different questions you'll have to answer, but it's exactly what that change is. And confirming that you have already made that change to your project page. So we just went through how to edit all of those things prior to submitting an edit. You must make sure that it is reflected on your page, because I don't use the form. I'm using the form to double check that everything has been edited and changed, but I'm pulling directly from the website. So make sure that if you do have any edits, it's fine. Just make sure that you're doing the form and filling out or making those changes to the project pages. And then on April 24th at 2 p.m. again, I do a second pull, and that's to catch all of those edits that were submitted via the form, and also any last minute venue bookings. Maybe, there's gonna be a few shows that are still getting their venue. So April 24th is that final last ditch pull. And from there, we take it and we do one more send, and that's for critical edits. That's for holy hell, this is a major problem, and I need it fixed. And that's where I have to manually change it. So keep in mind, like, I will only accept edits that are really messed up. I can't do there's a small, like, I'd rather have it be 13 plus instead of 14 plus. That's for critical edits, because I have to manually edit each and every listing. And then on May 3rd, you get a final designed, ready to go, beautiful listing in your inbox. And from there, you have 24 hours to look at that. And that edit is that is for any mistakes we might have made. Maybe in the design process, the last line of one listing got cut off, because we're human. Shit might happen. It's never happened before, but we make sure that we have every single show's eyes on that document so that we can all go, okay, we've looked at it and it's good to go before we send it off to print. So know that there's going to be 3 emails. excuse me, that come your way, that it really is important that you double check to make sure, because at the end of the day, again, there's 400 plus of y'all, and there is 6 of us on the team total, and really just 2 of us that are actively working on the guide. So to make sure that we are as a team making sure everything is perfect and ready for the guide, that's how we do it. And then if you can do that now, if that first proof, if you can lock yourself in, you are going to save yourself so much time. So highly recommend just getting it sorted now. That way you can focus on selling tickets in the future. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Well, wow, I'm going to do, excuse me. I think I have, well, shoot. No, I went through my list. You know what? I'm going to do industry. I'm going to do one more thing with y'all.
I
This
do
will
have
come
a
up.
question. I'm
Oh, you
sorry.
have a question? Yeah,
I
no,
get all excited to not have any, and then I remember.
you're good. And then I just looked through I have things too. So just ask your question and then I will go through my last 2
My
notes.
question is for back on the production team
Yes.
stuff. I see that you can add other people's photos, but is there a way to add their bio? I can only add mine. No.
Yeah, they have to add it themselves because essentially like you can change their photo as you're adding them and it's showing up on your page, but really once you add them, they are now the owner of that user account.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But what I often see if there's sometimes team members are having trouble, they're not maybe as fully invested in Fringe, and that's understandable. That happens sometimes. We can certainly like email support and we can work with you to help fill out that profile with their permission to save them a little step if they're not really interested in using that user account, because that is sometimes how it works.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions before I jump into my last 2 things that I did not hit on my outline?
Hi, what was the deadline for the ad in the guide?
Oh yeah, April 20th, end of day. So like basically I wake up bright and early on April 21st and do that poll. So April 20th, as long as it's in before going to bed, you're solid.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk. I'm going to talk press a little bit because this question will come up later. I know it's going to be super early, so just kind of hold on to this nugget for later, y'all. But for press and okay, let's see. Quick pause while I get back to my page. Okay. Back to sharing my screen. Okay. So we have the press tab. This is where you add your press release. We talked about this yesterday, and we'll talk more about this in the coming workshops. But this is an editable. The tab can be edited to include your press release, and so you're going to want to make sure you do that because that is a tab that the press is looking at. You just click Add Press Release, and then you add it here. I will highly recommend really anything with the website, anything with websites in general. Take things through a text washer. It'll look a lot prettier and it allows you to copy paste with a little more finesse than like doing a direct copy paste from your Google Doc or from your Word doc. A text washer is a really lovely tool to make it just look pretty and clean. But you'll drop it in here and then links, because like I will say any photos added to the site will slow down the search engine. So I highly recommend linking to maybe a Google folder with your, press photos or any additional materials. Using a link here is going to be far more beneficial than a direct photo. Because specifically, and same goes for your details tab, you can add a photo into your details, but every time, and I'm not kidding, every time it suddenly the search engine will hold on to all of the little pieces of that photo and your show will no longer be searchable. There will be no way to find your show via the search engine because that photo has completely manipulated the characters within your show title. And then, okay, so let's talk press and industry. Give me 2 quick seconds I'm going to stop a share so that I can log into my email and show you what a press or industry request looks like. Because that will come up starting in May. Okay, sorry, y'all, 1 sec. Carly, maybe while I have you on, do you want to give some hot tips from the press department as far as building a press release while I pull up my email?
Yeah, sure.
I'm being put on the spot. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I love this. Yeah, so I think just when it comes to press, I think that the most important thing that you can do is be super, super concise. And I really, really, I don't know if this was said yesterday. I assume it was. You don't need to hire a publicist. You can write your own press release. It's super. If you need any help, we have a bunch of stuff on the supportal and on our website with tips about writing a press release and what you actually need in it. So I highly recommend using some of those resources. It's super, super helpful. And when it comes to actually reaching out to press, I always recommend just being really, really concise, really respectful, and not copying and pasting the same email to every single person, and or forgetting to change the name of the person that you're sending it to. I know that that sounds wild, but when you're mass sending emails to press or press releases, it's really easy to accidentally send, Jenny the message that was meant for Ashley. And you just want to make sure that you're personalizing as much as possible when you send your press release, and making sure that you're kind of finding a way to connect with the person that you're reaching out to, without just making it a mass email. So that's my biggest tip when it comes to press, because it's very easy to see when you're getting a mass email from someone, especially these days. So that is my tip.
Yes. No, Carly, 100%. Literally, we were talking about this yesterday, and it's the amount of emails I get as industry when I go to other festivals that are really copy pasted, and they have I was like, I don't think you want me at your show. Like, I think I just happen to be on a list, and now I have no desire to go because you haven't told me why I need to be there versus any other industry. Okay, so I have my email up, and I'm going to pull this up, and then I see there's a question. We'll get to you in just a quick second. But I want to show you. So when it comes time, so during the festival, during May and June, we are registering press on the website so that they're under a little bit of an umbrella. Like, we're helping kind of guide them, making sure they have access to directly contact you to request comps to your show. And then also we're kind of giving them a little bit of a concierge service. Like, we're sending out press releases, like, have you checked out the comedies? Have you checked out, we're doing kind of wide pitches, and then letting y'all stand out on your own bit, depending on how you're building relationships. But if let's say I'm a press person, I'm Ellen from the Hollywood Reporter, and I have, I'm really excited to see my test show. I have sent a request, and this is what it will look like on your side of things. So this is the primary producer. This is another one that's only primary. Okay, in a second, you're going to see my personal email, because I had to create a lot of different accounts to make this entanglement work. Can everyone see good news? Industry is interested? Yes. Okay. Thank you for that confirmation, Amanda. Okay. So you will get an email, y'all. We try to keep this super, super simple. But good news, so-and-so is interested in seeing your test show fully cooked. This is where they will also put in a note. Most of them don't really put in a personal request, but some will. And maybe it's like, hey, can I have an additional comp ticket to bring my partner or bring a friend, whatever it is. But basically, here's a personal note about the request, and it'll be here. Like I put in, if they send this message, it shows up like this. But then you, as the primary producer, you're going to click this link. It says, click here to create a comp for Lois. And it'll take you right to your Hollywood Fringe page. And then it goes to here. So this is the person. So it'll say the name and the organization. If it's press or industry, it'll tell you where from. And then you can decide how many tickets you want to give them. I'm going to give them 2 tickets. Then you can add any notes for yourself. This is not going to them. This is, wait, right, Carly? I think so. Yeah, this is your notes. And then, yeah. You can write in here, is it press? Is it industry? Again, this doesn't matter so much. This is for your will call. That way you can have that reminder when it comes time for them to actually show up. So we're going to say, yes, industry. And then you're going to add comps. And then they show up in your comps. They are taken out of your, house capacity, and the website sends them an email saying, you have, been approved for your 2 comps. Enjoy the show. And then that is now a part of their account. And then of course, remember, you can not do that. You can just hit cancel and move along if you're not interested in giving out a comp. It is entirely up to you. Okay, I think that was my press. Okay, I'm going to do one last look. I'm going to do one more because we're here and I just want to really hit it home so we have no issues, and then I'll take questions, y'all, I promise. So I want to go back to admin. And we're going to do the guide proof, right, y'all? We're going to look at this page, all of us, for at least like 20 minutes. We're going to send it to a friend. We're going to screenshot it and send it to a friend that we trust to double check it. But making sure that we know our title, the company, the runtime. These are the tags: free, world premiere, free show. Well, it should only say one show, one time, but content warning if there is one. The age reminder: if you're in 3 clubs, it needs to be 21 plus. No one under 21 will be allowed in that venue, and that'll be a bummer for your audience if it's not listed here. And then, of course, you're going to have your characters right here. Your venue, don't worry about map. I enter that in later. I'll give every venue a number associated with a map that we build on the back, but your venue name, it needs to be correct. Of course, the venue space within that, the address, and then all of your dates right here. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and go to questions. Okay, yes, Dara.
Hi. You mentioned something about the photo attached to the details page and slowing down, but then you had also mentioned earlier adding more photos for like industry people, and I didn't understand what I'm supposed to do or not do.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Here, let me, so if you go to, one more screen share. So we're back to details. You want to add photos here, media, during the media section where it's built into the website where you can add photos, videos, all of that. You don't want to add any in the, what am I doing? Edit. In the description. That's where you don't want to add any photos. So like in the short description or the long description, technically speaking, you can add a photo, but it is not built for that. And it will slow down the search engine.
Okay, and I just like logged in and noticed that there was all this like HTML code where I had written my uh thing before and it didn't have that, and it looks fine on the website, but I just know that if I was like editing it, it would be a problem.
Yeah, so every once in a while it happens. It's just there's so much coding in the website. If you ever do see like a weird HTML code, just log out, log back in, and it'll be gone again. Or
Awesome.
even refresh will usually do it too. But just sometimes the website gets a little overwhelmed. But yeah, it's never on the public facing.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, Vivia.
Hi, I forgot to introduce myself last time. I'm Vivia Armstrong. My solo show is called Bellyful: What's Filling Her Physically, Mentally, and Spiritually. And I wanted to ask, last year, you all did a Juneteenth email blast, and that was how I learned about 4 different shows that I went to see. I was wondering, what is the proper way for me to tag myself so that I could be included in if you all are doing that email again?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We do a few of those. So we do a Juneteenth to make sure we're highlighting our Black producers and our Black writers, and then we have a queer email as well because we are during Pride, and so we do a check out the queer producers, the queer facing shows, and then a couple of others. But it's actually in your registration portal. Last year we kind of had to figure it out by the tags, but this year it's built into your registration portal. We ask those questions when you're registering so that we can automatically pull the shows that will like fit underneath those highlights.
Okay, I don't remember what I marked. Is there a way for me to
Double
go
check.
back to see if
Yeah.
I double checked that I marked it so I can get in that pool?
Yeah, totally. And we do our best to like also just like we search the site and we're kind of tracking. So just like some fun behind the scenes stuff, y'all, and how we do what we do. Like we keep a pretty massive spreadsheet as you're registering, as your projects are coming through, so that we kind of know who's participating. And that way we're kind of locked in when press comes to us specifically. Like in the past, we've had press engage with us wanting to know what film artists are a part of the festival and how like TV and film artists are engaging in theater with things kind of so, shitty in the film industry. And that led to an article, and that but that spreadsheet allows us to go, hey, like we're not going to play favorites, but we'll say, here's all of the shows that have mentioned somewhere on their project page that they have a TV and film background, or so we're collecting. And so similarly with the shows that are by Black creators, to make sure that we are like understanding kind of who the artists are that are participating, so that when the right opportunity comes, we can uplift y'all. So the more information that's in your project page, and definitely, yeah, via double check the registration. So as a reminder, if anyone needs to double check that, it's the box right under your media on the details tab.
Ah, okay. Because I couldn't remember if it was a Google form or not. But okay, now that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And then use the tags too, because I think as we're building these different ways of marketing, the audience is starting to pick up on that too. So make sure, like, I think there's a few tags that you can include as well. That way, when audience is looking for shows beyond just Juneteenth, they can like find the shows that they want to support. Okay, any other questions, y'all? Well, now I feel like a preschool teacher, but it's like now we have an extra 25 minutes so we can all go early and you can check your guide proofs and you can make sure that you are going to be like the best in the class. You're going to have everything so set. And next week, when everyone's in full panic mode, you're going to be like, well, I came to the web session, so I'm fine. So yeah, I
Uh,
think, yeah.
the information about the QR code, the link,
Yeah.
what is it?
Oh, it was the project link. If you go to what was the show called? It was Hollywood Chola, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, Carly, can you do me the biggest favor, my love? Can you go to that project page and drop the project link in the chat? We're just gonna grab it directly for you.
Yes, for Hollywood Troll, yes.
Thank you.
So just copy what you're gonna send me?
Yeah. Carly's gonna drop it in the, she dropped it in the chat right here. And that way you can use that exact link and you're gonna be rocking and ready to go. And then it's a perfect example for anyone who also is trying to figure out what their project is. It's the details tab, and then just go back one, and that'll be your project. Okay, Jessica, you have a question?
I do. And I don't know if this is a fringe question or a link tree question, but when I created a link tree, when I go to the website like directly, it shows everything correctly. I'm using words, but like when I go here to my link tree, it's showing that like green guy instead of like the poster for my show. Why?
When, you know what it might be?
Tell me.
When did you add it? You added it recently, or it was a long time ago?
Days ago.
Okay, so it wouldn't be that. My guess is it's actually too big, and the link tree like has like it's a pop-up window. My guess is that the size, because like the Fringe website will kind of adjust based on the size of the image, but external websites might be in panic mode when they see like a larger image.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I would, and that's a good tip for the iPhone app too. I would think like for your primary image, use a square image. That way nothing's getting cut off when you go, because like the iPhone app, other like if you're connecting it to the website, they're all gonna have a different one. So if you use the square image, like the old Instagram sizing really is like the, if you're looking in Canva, on your profile, that should solve that. I think it's just the image size is
Is there like a pixel limit or anything or
not a pixel limit to my knowledge. I think it's just using a like proper square.
got it.
Yeah, that's a great question. And if that doesn't work, email us at support and we'll help you problem solve. I love a challenge, so let's figure it out. But I'm pretty sure that's it.
Can I include the QR code? I'd like to get my postcards done before tickets go on sale, and I can include that QR code on the printed flyers already.
Yeah. That
Okay.
project page will not change. And
Okay.
it's just helpful, I think, on the, if you're going to start printing them and like placing them places, it doesn't hurt to add a simple like tickets on sale May 1st. That way you're not
Okay.
gaffing your patrons.
Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, that link will not change, so you're all good.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any last questions, y'all, before I go and do my taxes? All right, perfect. I think the hand up is from earlier, right?
No. I do have this.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. What's up?
No, I took that one down. Louis, when the 300, I thought I had figured it out till you started highlighting the dates. The 300 is just the show description, not the title, not the dates, nothing else, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. You got me scared when you were highlighting the dates. I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
sorry. No, I can't. I have
okay,
no aim.
thank you.
Zero mouse aim on that one. Yeah, just the short description is the 300. And there is, I know in the emails we sent out, and the emails we'll continue to send out as we prep for the guide. There's character count websites that can make that super easy before you get ready. So you can character count it in the website and then go through a text washer and then pop it into the Hollywood Fringe website, and you'll be locked in, ready to go. Okay. Anything else, y'all? Brilliant. I can't wait to see all of your perfect, so early and ready to go guide proofs because you showed up today. So thank you for being in community with us today, and have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.